क्वेश्चन समझ गया। Yes, sir. Yes.
Have they joined? It can't be such a uh, 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah,
I
maybe we
there.
should message there.
Acha,
I will just go ahead and do that.
I think it's a good starting today. So I hope they all be should be here. It's a
Yeah, Bhupatkar sir is there.
yes, yes. No.
We will go ahead now. We will start. Sir, we have already done with the chantings of Omkar. We are starting with the third chapter today. Uh, it is completely about the description, explanation about the mudras. In fact, we will have a very description about the whole Kundalini first, and then understanding the mudras, we will be entering into the concept of Kundalini Yoga. See, Kundalini or Kundali is a concept based understanding about yoga. So here we have to have literally lot of connectivity in our yogic practices about the changes that are taking place in our body to let the energies in our body, different energies in our body, to come with a cumulative or an approach of togetherness in order to allow the self-realization to take place. The whole understanding of the concept of Kundalini Yoga. As we are starting with the first sloka itself, somewhat you understand the comparison of the individual body with that of the universe, and how the universe and the body, they are functioning likewise, as we say pindate brahmanda and brahmandate pinda. So how they are connected to each other will be observed in the first sloka itself. Let us get into that. सशैल वन धात्रीणाम यथा आधारो अहिनायकः सर्वेषां योग तंत्राणाम तथा आधारो ही कुंडली. Just as the lord of serpents, none other than Sheshanag, just as the lord of the serpents is of the earth with all its mountains and forests, so the Kundalini verily is the support of all the practices of yoga. Now, this is the understanding of Indian mythology. That is, the earth is revolving on the top of the head of the great Sheshanaga. And Sheshanaga is that force, that energy, which is controlling every other side. Because you can just imagine, like many a times we see footballers or magicians, they have a ball in their hand, they roll it and let it roll on the tip of the finger. Now, is it that they are doing some kind of magic, or there is all of the forces all around? The kind of finger which is positioned at a point near the ball is handling the motion of the ball, and at the same time, whenever that motion is getting here and there slightly disturbed, there is a change and manipulation in the positioning of the finger or the hand, and the balance is retained. Now, what are the things involved? Maintain that balance. There are many forces, even the forces around that ball, even the finger below, and even the focusing of the person whose finger is holding, or I should say, bearing on its tip.
I think Mahendra Bhai has to mute his mic. There is a sound coming from Mahendra Bhai's.
I am sorry, sir. The sound is coming from my place itself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the adjacent wall, in the nearby flat, there is work going on, which is creating that kind of disturbance. So can't help it. We have to, because since morning it was not there. Now maybe the workers have come, so it might have started. So today, let us manage with that somehow. What I was saying is, all the required forces are managed. And in that management, there is a kind of proper involvement of all these forces with respect to those deities. Now imagine those deities existing in our body, and they are managing those forces. You may call it as Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, or many more other deities. In fact, if you go into our other granthas, we have one particular deity to one organ in our body. If you go ahead and understand the Rama Raksha Stotra, you will come across so many deities coming across many parts of our body. Anyways, subject is Hatha Yoga. उनको बोलो वो दरवाजा बंद करने के लिए, ताकि साउंड नहीं आए, दरवाजा बंद करने के लिए बोलो. So now here, when I read this first shloka, we are understanding Sheshnag on its top of the head, with many hoods holding onto the earth and balancing it nicely. It's revolving around its own axis. Now there is a replica of that Sheshnaga existing in this body, which on its top of the head, handling all the movements in the body. See, this first shloka, if we try to understand and go deeper into it, you will be coming across the whole functioning of the body and how Kundalini is the base support of the same. That has been explained here. So, really, Kundalini is the support of these practices of yoga itself. These practices which are going to bring about the changes in the various energies which are existing in the body, and they are managed. In the next shloka, it will become more clear as we read the shlokas. Coming to the second shloka, it says, Supta Guru Prasadena Yada Jagarti Kundalini Tadasani Padmani Vidyante Opapicha. Padma and Granthi. Padma is the but the centers, energy centers in our body. In the chapter of Prana, that is the second chapter earlier, we have discussed once. Okay, the base lotus is known as Mooladhara. Above it is Swadhisthana. Above it is Manipura. Above that is Anahata. Above that is your Vishuddhi. And above that is Ajna. And ultimately, beyond all the six is the seventh one, the universal one, which is the Sahasrara Chakra. Now, friends, these are the forces which are managing activities in our body, carrying out various functions efficiently. But the energy which is behind their proper function is lying in a dormant state, supta. It is lying in a very dormant state, supta. Supta itself should be a connotation used for the individual's ignorance. Ignorance, there is a covering of the veil on the knowledge that is there already inherent in us. So when we are activating this Kundalini, which is going to travel through the Sushumna, what is happening is we are removing one by one veil. While explaining, Guruji once explained it very well. He said, our individual body, which is having Panchakosha in Taittiriya Upanishad, in the Brahmananda Valli, we come across this concept of Panchakosha, the 5 sheaths. These 5 sheaths are covering our consciousness, our Atman. The outer covering, as you may be knowing, is known as Annamaya Kosha. Interior to that Annamaya Kosha is Pranamaya Kosha. Interior to Pranamaya Kosha is Manomaya Kosha, where Pranamaya Kosha is like the linking between Annamaya Kosha and Manomaya Kosha. And interior to Manomaya Kosha is your Vijnanamaya Kosha. And to that Vijnanamaya Kosha is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is covering the ultimate inner bulb, you can say, which is Atman. If you dissect or you take an example of an onion, if you go ahead, if you see the center of the pericarp, you can understand it to be the innermost understanding of existence of that flower, and it is known as the pericarp, the bulb of the whole flower. We can say it to be the Atman, but that Atman is covered by many layers, and these layers are nothing but the koshas or the sheaths which are covering the Atman. In this Taittiriya Upanishad, we have been told to get onto that journey and experience that Ananda, that ultimate bliss, which will make us to have the experience of the self. But to go to that level, here the concept that just today in that 33rd and 34th shloka, as we come across, when we say, when the Arjuna is saying, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramadi balvadridam, we need to understand that this mind, which is very chanchal, is connected to the physical body, which is connected to the external world. So where the body externally exposed to the material world is the physical body, which is Annamaya Kosha. And ultimately through Pranamaya Kosha, which is the energy body or pranic body, is connecting to the emotional body, which is your Manomaya Kosha. And that is where the Chanchalta is expressed by the great Arjuna to Lord, and he is telling him, for you it is easy to say, control your mind, control your mind, control your mind, but you do not understand my state, my dear. This is very Chanchala. Then Krishna also says, okay, fine, I understand. It is true that yes, it is very difficult to control. But unless and until you get the knowledge of the same, how are you going to get hold of it? So to get hold of it, we are entering into the yogic practices like Shatkar, Sukma Vyayama and Surya Namaskar and asanas, to develop that physical body, which goes beyond the connectivity to the material world and trying to reach towards the spiritual world, that is getting connected inward, and that is towards the Atman. But the flow is through the energy body, and that energy body is Pranamaya Kosha, which is the flow of prana through the nadis. When the physical body is getting purified, strengthened, and made, you can say, stable, all these grosser practices are bringing you to the subtler aspect of pranayama, where pranayama is connecting you from the physical body to the mental body. Pranayama is like a medium, or this pranamaya kosha is like the linking in between these two bodies. In the very similar manner, manomaya kosha is the link between the pranamaya kosha and the anandamaya kosha, or vijnanamaya kosha. And vijnanamaya kosha is the link in between the manomaya kosha and the anandamaya kosha. So the whole Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in the second chapter that we learn, right from physical body, from Annamaya Kosha, we are gradually going in. It is like the process of stimulating the Kundalini, which is lying in the dormant state, to slowly get into activation. And that's what he says. Supta Guru Prasadena Yadi Jagarti Kundalini. Somewhere with the grace of the Guru. When we say with the grace of the Guru, the Kundalini is slowly becoming active. We need to understand the Guru is teaching us, the teacher is making us how to do the practices. But as we were discussing in the morning, the teacher teaches, but unless we practice, how we go ahead? No doubt that Shaktipat may also take place when the Guru keeps his hand and lets the whole activation happen. That is some other method. But in this method of Kundalini Yoga, the Guru makes you understand what you are do, and with his grace, as you follow that path, automatically these things are getting into connectivity with that Kundalini, which is getting stimulated and activated. And there he says, Tada sarvani padmani vidyante granthayo apicha. That is where all the energy centers, they are not only brought under consideration and activated, the path is made free. As we say, the bhedana, the piercing of all the energy centers is taking place. And as I told you earlier also, Grantha or Granthi, these are the knots. There are 3 knots. We have discussed this earlier also. Granthi, which is somewhere around the lower 3 chakras or lower 3 padmas. Then the Vishnu Granthi, which is above the Anahata chakra and the Vishuddhi chakra. And Rudra Granthi is beyond the Ajna chakra. That means all the energy centers, they have been activated, they have been stabilized, they have been balanced. So just imagine, the grosser state of a body is earth element, then the water element, which is subtler than the earth, then the fire element, which is subtler than the water, then the air element, which is subtler than the fire, then the space element, which is subtler than the air. And these are situated in our body. So this is the Panchamahabhautik Sharira. As you are doing the practice from Asan, Shatkarma to Pranayam, from Pranayam to Pratyahar, from Pratyahar we are entering into Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi, which is beautifully explained by Patanjali when in the first chapter itself, when he says, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita, Rupanugamata, Samprajnataha. Samprajna is that Samadhi which is with Prajna, with knowledge, with wisdom. Knowledge is that we acquire. But after acquiring, as we are embarking on that path and experiencing the changes, you get that wisdom. You come to that realization. And when you are into that realization, Vitarka means going beyond every gross and subtle objects around you, whether it is your physical body. When you talk about vichara, going beyond the gross and subtle thoughts, when you talk about ananda, it is that state which is rid of every understanding about the material world, but it is more closer to the interior aspects of spirituality, where we are very close towards our Atman, towards ourself, and that itself gives you a feeling of for no reason. Really, we become happy when someone gives us a chocolate, when someone prepares something which is very close to our heart, and we like to eat that. We become happy when someone gives us the return for our deeds without even expecting that. All this is happiness related to the material world. But what about happiness which is beyond and greater than all this happiness when you start experiencing is only after vitarka and vichara. These two we have to go beyond. And in the first chapter of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras itself, right from the sutra number 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, Patanjali Muni makes us understand what savichar and how to go beyond the what is savitarka and how to go beyond this gross and subtle objects and become nirvitarka. This savichara, remaining in the gross and subtle thoughts and going beyond that and becoming nirvichara, and then coming to sananda sthiti. He doesn't say nira ananda. He doesn't say that. He says sananda sthiti. Sananda sthiti is the result of getting completely devoid of the material understanding. Is it that once you are in that ananda sthiti, very much connected with yourself, though it has not been become one with, is it you would be in the material world? You will be there. You will be carrying out all the duties according to your dharma that you are supposed to carry out. Me being a teacher, I will carry out my teaching properly. Me being a father, I will carry out duties of as father. Being a husband, I will carry out that. Means you will play all the roles of your life being in that state, but you will not be attached to that state. You will remain aloof out of it. When you are remaining aloof out of it, that means you are disconnected from the material side. Being in the material, you are out of it. Bhagwan Krishna says that, like a lotus, you have to bloom by being in that muck. So in the very similar manner, you are still in the muck. The body is the muck. ये कीचड़ में रहते हुए भी वो आत्मा के साथ आपको खिलना है. वो आत्मा के साथ एक रूप होकर आपको, and that is where the energy centers, that is where the three knots are pierced, and you are on the process of going through the Sushumna. This is how you need to be understand. Now see, at once I have showed you how asanas, how shatkarmas, how pranayamas, they are taking you ahead. But when we are going ahead, friends, there needs to be certain practices which will keep us sustained in this state. एक प्रयास से स्थिति में आ जाना समझ में आता है, लेकिन वो स्थिति में बने रहने के लिए हमको क्या करना चाहिए, वो ये तीसरे अध्याय में हम सीखते हैं, and that is mudras. The mudras are the practices which will keep you sustained in what you have been doing earlier and still progress further. If I would like to share here, the concept of understanding of mudras in Gheranda Samhita, Gheranda Muni explains it before making us understand what is pranayama, what is pratyahara. See, first chapter is of Shatkarma, second chapter is of asana, and the third chapter in Gheranda Samhita is mudra. The fourth is pratyahara, fifth is pranayama, but he still explains mudra before. Why, you know? Because it is like he is giving you a vision, he is giving you an understanding where you need to go, where you need to get stabilized, and first know that where you are supposed to get stabilized. Now let us come to to pratyahar, where our senses need to be controlled. Now let us come to pranayam, which is through the sense control going to lead us into that state of oneness. So everything of connecting to the self and making us realize how to get connected. But it depends upon the student how to take it and get into the practice and reach there. So this second shloka says, Sukta Guru Prasadena Yada Jagati Kundali Tada Sarvani Padmani Vidyante Granthayo Apicha. This is how, with the grace of the Guru, by his teachings, by all that practices that we are doing, regularly we are leading ourselves onto that path where we are going to enter into Sushumna and reach the penultimate state of becoming one with the self. And that's what he makes us understand in the next shloka. What is that penultimate state? Becoming one with Shiva. What is that? Pranasya shunya padvi tada raj pathayate tada chittam niralambam tada kalasya vanchanam. This Sushumna becomes the highway when he says Pranasya shunya raj pathayate. When he's talking about the highway for prana, that means to make it a highway, that kind of obstacles or any kind of, we do not call a highway when there are speed breakers, when there are potholes, when there are various obstructions. Then it is not a highway. Then it is full of obstruction. Then it may be a simple state highway, or it may be a simple other road which is connecting the others. So the other roads are full of impurities. First we need to purify them, and that we have learned in the previous chapter, purifying. Now we have reached to the highway where we are on that constant speed to become one. Tada chittam niralambam tada kalasya vanchanam. The mind is going to become objectless. Just now I was talking about the Manomaya Kosha. In that Manomaya Kosha, as we are gaining stability over our emotions and many other factors related to the material world with respect to attachment or whatever you say, we are coming to that beautiful understanding that when I am connected with the self, I am not connected with anything else, but I am there. Without getting connected to it, I am always in that flow. That is where your Mahapatha is clear for your travel. And in that Maya Kosha, already you are experiencing the essence of Vijnanamaya Kosha. That means your intellectual ability is in a form of lower intellectual ability is already present in your mind, in your Manomaya Kosha. Though you have not yet reached to the higher faculty, that is the intellectual kosha, that is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Being in the Manomaya Kosha itself, you are coming to that lower intellectual ability. Now, what is lower intellectual ability? Lower intellectual ability is telling you that having realized that all the sukha, dukkha, pain, pleasure, heat, cold, high, low, success, failure, this is all concerned with the material world. I need not care about that. Let me see them as same, or not different. This is what we have learned in the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Now the same thing with practice. Here, the Manomaya Kosha having become completely stabilized, we are entering into that Viveka of Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is always guiding us. Hey, this is not right, this is right. This is wrong, this is correct. This is false, this is the truth. And once that clarity is there, remaining connected to the self is not difficult at all. People say, ये तो बहुत difficult होगा आगे जाना, हम तो पूरी तरह से संसार में अटके हुए हैं, कैसे जाएंगे? अर्जुन ने कहा ना, चंचलम ही मन कृष्णा, प्रमादि बलवत, मैं कैसे आगे बढ़ूंगा? It is not easy. For you it is easy to say. For me to practice and get into that state, it is not at all easy. And that is where the practice of yoga comes to our help. And that's where he says, Abhyas Vairagya tu Kaunteya. Oh Kunti Putra, please make sure that this Abhyas, which is practice, and Vairagya, which is dispassion or detachment, they both go hand in hand. Without Vairagya, you cannot do Abhyas. Without abhyas, you cannot do vairagya also. To become vairagi, efforts are needed. And those efforts, I still remember when a teacher was explaining about the stages of vairagya. He told how from the yatamana sthiti we are coming to vyatireka vairagya. From vyatireka vairagya, how we are coming to ekendriya vairagya. And from ekendriya vairagya, how we are coming to vashikara vairagya. And Patanjali talks about vashikara vairagya, where he says, drishtanushravika vishay vitrushnasya vashikara sanya vairagyam. So vashikara sanya, it is that noun. Vairagya is that noun where total mastery on your senses, on your mind, and all that kind of distraction which leads you out is attained. So he's talking about total mastery. But to attain that total mastery, there has to be certain steps. When we talk about yatamana vairagya, we need to understand how to control our senses. When we are talking about vyatireka, we need to understand how to control our mind in order to make our senses understand, yes. So if that distraction is there, you are not supposed to be distracted. How that ability will come to you. And getting established in that and becoming focused is ekendriya vairagya, where everything else doesn't matter. What matters is becoming focused and getting into that. Today in the morning we were discussing from defocusing how to become more focused. See, there are many things around us. ये है, ये है, ये है, ये है. तो उसके तरफ भी ध्यान जा रहा है, उसके तरफ भी ध्यान जा रहा है. तो कुछ ऐसी चीजें हैं जहां पर आपको डिफोकस होना है, और कुछ ऐसी बात भी है जहां पर आपको पूरी तरह से फोकस्ड होना है. तो टू बिकम मोर फोकस्ड and becoming disciplined in that focusing, we need to become defocused also. Defocused about those things which can remove all those layers and make you focused. And these are the yogic practices which are going to lead you into that focusing. To see how this koshas, the layers of the body, as you are practicing the yogic practices, are leading you deep within. All the mudras, any mudra, right from shloka number 9 ahead, we will be learning 10 shlokas, 10 mudras, sorry. So those 10 mudras, it is not we are practicing all the 10. According to our ability, according to our nature, as I have been telling you always earlier also, every individual is coming across is liking. Now, liking is not an attachment, that liking is the preference of Satvikta, where that ultimate knowledge is still prevailing. And it is going to lead you into that oneness with the self. So that knowledge, which is the correct knowledge, which is still taking you through that, is pure sattva. And in that sattva, as we are prevailing, we are never coming to the dominancy of rajas and tamas. It is not there, but now no more they are dominant. They are there for the sake of being there. And what is dominating is our sattvic pravrutti, which is leading us ahead. So here, when we say the sushumna becomes the highway, the prana, mind, for the prana, the mind becomes objectless, the death is evaded. Kalasya vanchanam. When we say kalasya vanchanam, it is not that you are going to become immortal. You are not going to die. In fact, the understanding is you will go beyond the birth and death cycle. You will go beyond the understanding of, because of the karmic seed being still present in you. So this practice of Kundalini Yoga is going to annihilate even a slightest impression related to karmic impressions or samskaras. The samskaras which are bringing you back to birth will be annihilated totally, and you will find that you are realized. You are out of it and you are into the sthiti of moksha. Having explained this whole science of philosophy in these 3 shlokas, connecting it to Bhagavad Gita also, connecting it to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras also, here Swatmana Suriji is making us understand the practice of mudra, how it is going to make our sushumna clear for the traveling of the Kundalini. So now when you come to the fourth shloka, you will come across different synonyms given to this channel. Yes, I will stop. Sir.
The third shloka, which talks about Sushupna becoming the highway, is it a consequence of the awakening of Kundalini, or is it the step towards awakening the Kundalini?
When the Kundalini starts awakening, it is because of our approach by various means to let the Kundalini awakening happen. When the Kundalini awakening is happening, Sushumna is getting open to let that Kundalini as a source of prana to flow it. But let me be very clear. Sushumna is not opening up unless and until the other nadis are becoming clear and pure. So, make the other nadis pure and clear. We are doing so many sadhana, all coming under the banner of the sadhana is the practice. See, doing the practice for the sake of the body is not sadhana. Doing the practices for the sake of realization of the self only is sadhana. So when we are doing the practices, Kundalini awakening is a concept. Sushumna being a pathway or a highway is a concept. Already you have created a situation where you are slowly closing in to your inner self, that is Anandamaya Kosha. When you are coming to that Anandamaya Kosha, of course, you have to understand with a Hatha Yoga point of view that your Kundalini has been awakened and the path is clear for its travel. That means the prana, which is available in various forms, is now becoming concentrated and ready to flow. We should remember this, that Kundalini is nothing but Shakti, and Shakti is nothing but the spouse of Shiva. Shiva is none other than consciousness. So consciousness in the form of matter is Kundalini. That matter which is not perceived, we are ignorant about it. So the ignorance is the Kundalini is in Supta Avastha. Ignorance means our Kundalini is not activated. But now, the moment Kundalini is activated, that means you have gained that knowledge of reaching the self. That Tattva Jnana, that understanding of philosophy, you have gained. And with that gaining of that philosophy, we are entering into that zone where we are excelling towards that path. I will come back to the shloka number 48 and 50 of the same second chapter, where the two definitions are coming to us, Samatvam Yoga Chute and Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam. When Yogastu Kuru Karmani Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya Siddha Asiddhayo Samo Bhutva is said by Lord Krishna, the 49th shloka leading us, getting established into it, into the 50th one, and telling us what he is saying. Okay, now having made your mind stable, having made your mind equanimous, as you are continuously going towards that, that means there is where we have to connect here with Hatha Yoga, that the pathway for the Shakti to become one with Shiva, the understanding of the existence of the body, not with the body, but with the self, had started happening. Tasma, now you need to be into that state which is going to get you connected with that self. That is Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam. That is Kushalta. Otherwise, we are gaining Kushalta in various aspects of our life. Maybe today I have just started learning to drive, and tomorrow, after a month or two and a year, I am driving like an expert, and I don't pay that attention when I was learning to drive. When I was learning to drive, मेरा पैर क्लच पे है कि नहीं, मेरा पैर एक्सीलेटर पे है कि नहीं, मेरा पैर एक्सीलेटर पे है या ब्रेक पे है, मैंने स्टीयरिंग को बराबर से पकड़ा है कि नहीं, मेरी नजरें सामने है कि नहीं, मेरा दूसरा हाथ बराबर से गियर पर जा रहा है कि नहीं। नहीं तो जब सीखते हैं ना तो ऐसा गियर को देखते हैं, हाँ किधर है, अच्छा इधर है, ऐसा करके हम पकड़ते हैं। लेकिन एक बार आपने ड्राइविंग सीख ली, फिर आपकी नजरें तो सामने रहती है, पर जाता है, आपके पैर तो बराबर क्लच, ब्रेक और पेडल पे बराबर से घूमते रहते हैं। आपके हाथ तो इस तरह से चलते हैं कि जैसे कि मानो आपने स्टीयरिंग को पकड़ा ही ना हो, खाली आपकी नजरें ही शायद स्टीयरिंग को घुमा रही हो। लेफ्ट टर्न पूरी तरह से लेने के लिए भी आपको खाली एक आसरा देना होता है, ऐसे ऐसे करके घुमाना नहीं होता। ये सब क्या है? मनोमय कोश तक आप जो है ना लर्निंग फेज में रहते हैं, लेकिन एक बार वो प्रिवेलिंग स्टेट में आ जाते हैं, दैट इज वेयर द सुषुम्ना इज बिकमिंग अ हाईवे फॉर यू टू ट्रैवल थ्रू। तो सी इन द objective life, as I have told you, and here in the objectless life, as I'm making you understand, the same kind of energy conditioning is taking place where you are going through that pathway and trying to become one with the consciousness. So awakening of the Kundalini and the highway open for its travel, they both go hand in hand. It is not that first the Kundalini awakens and then the highway opens, or the highway opens up first and then the Kundalini awakening. They both are the understanding of each other. We have to take it that way and then understand, if this is happening, then this is going to happen. If Kundalini is awakened, then the pathway is going to get opened. We have to take it that way. I hope it is clear to you now, sir. Thank you.
So perhaps we can say they're two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
Or we can even say that it's actually a highway which is kind of full of potholes and all that. And as those keep getting filled, it becomes an actual working highway.
True. It is like removing all the obstacles and making the ride smooth. Very simple. It's true. ये होने के लिए, to let this happen, बाकी के कितने पापड़ बेलने पड़ते हैं। और वो पापड़ बेलते समय अगर कभी हम टेस्ट फैक्टर में आ गए कि ये पापड़ में हम वाइन डालेंगे, जीरा डालेंगे और इसको टेस्टी बनाएंगे, तो आप मटेरियल में, मैटर में फंस गए। दैट्स हाउ वी प्रैक्टिस योगा ना टुडे, फॉर थेरेपी, फॉर लूज वेट, फॉर मैनेजिंग मोर अदर थिंग्स। See, these things will happen automatically. We did not practice yoga to let this happen. We practice yoga keeping this in the vision of self-realization. If self-realization is there here, nicely tuned, everything else will happen. जब तक वीणा की तारें बराबर से वो ट्यूनिंग के लिए तैयार न की जाए, तब तक संगीत, सुर ये रूप नहीं लेता। तो पहले तो उस तरह से बनाना होगा, और वो जैसे जैसे आप उसको टाइटनिंग करते जाएंगे, ऑटोमेटिकली सुर अपने आप बनते जाता है। उसमें वो संगीत का जो लय है, उसमें वो जो मधुरता है, वो अपने आप बनने जाती है। जैसे आज सुबह मैडम एक एग्जांपल दे रही थी, ड्रॉपिंग ऑफ द स्टोन्स एंड क्रिएटिंग दैट म्यूजिक। द ड्रॉपिंग ऑफ द स्टोन्स इज नथिंग बट योर sheer intense tapa practice, where you are also getting detached from other things which are pulling you out of it. जहां वो अटैचमेंट रहेगा तो ड्रॉपिंग विल गेट डिस्टर्ब। व्हेन द ड्रॉपिंग विल गेट डिस्टर्ब, द म्यूजिक इज गोइंग टू बी बेसुर। दिस कंसेप्ट इज द सेम as related to here what Swatmaram ji is making us understand. You need to understand this concept. If this is not clear, you will not go ahead. The reading of the whole third chapter will be futile for us. First, we need to come to this understanding how the practice to be approached. Of course, many a times when we do practice, we have to keep things like, while practicing Padmasana, is my knee ready to let Padmasana happen? I have knee pain. I should not do it. We are still identifying ourselves with that pain, and that's why we are restricting ourselves to getting into the practice. Once Guruji said, जब तक ये इंडिकेशंस और लिमिटेशंस आप दिमाग में रहेंगे, तो ये सोच लो कि आपका प्रैक्टिस लिमिटेड रहेगा। जहां ये विचार ऐसे हो जाएं कि पेन तो मुझको नहीं है, मेरे शरीर को है, और अगर मैं बैठ भी जाता हूं तो जो कुछ होना है वो शरीर को होना है, मुझे कुछ नहीं होना है. मुझे यानी identifying yourself as Atman. That is the time the body will stop troubling you because you are not interested in that trouble. Yoga takes place. So of course, उसके लिए वैराग्य की जरूरत है ना. तो साबिर भाई इंस्ट्रक्शन में क्या कहते हैं? You are facing difficulty in sitting Padmasana, sit in Ardha Padmasana. If not able to sit in Ardha Padmasana, sit in cross leg position. तो साबिर भाई ने क्या किया? पद्मासन के लिए आपके मन के अंदर एक वैराग्य की स्थिति ले आई, अर्ध पद्मासन के लिए भी वैराग्य की स्थिति ले आई, और आपको कहा कि क्रॉस लेग में बैठ जाओ. तो क्रॉस लेग में आने के बाद में आपका मन एकदम से फोकस्ड हो गया और अभ्यास के साथ साथ वैराग्य भी हो रहा है. तो फिजिकली वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. तो लिमिटेशंस आर ऑब्जर्व्ड, बट लिमिटेशन नॉट ऑब्जर्व्ड एज our lacuna of doing the practice, but limitation should be observed as bringing about the culturing of vairagya in our mind in order to excel. Karmasu kaushalam. That is how these are supposed to be understood and brought into practicality, and let us go ahead and excel on our path. So this is how these three shlokas have made us understand. And the fourth one is the simple one, where he says, सुषुम्ना शून्य पदवी ब्रह्मरंध्रम महापतः शानम शांभवी मध्य मार्ग च इति एकवाचकः. ही टेलिंग अस कि ये जो सुषुम्ना है, इसे हम शून्य पद भी कह सकते हैं, ब्रह्मरंध्र भी कह सकते हैं, महापथ तो हम ऑलरेडी, इसे हम स्मशान भी बुला सकते हैं, और ये शांभवी भी है, as well as it is the madhya marg. These are the synonyms which are often used to convey the same meaning of Sushumna. And Kaivaladham in its explanation in the note brings about the explanation of Shunya Padvi, Brahmarandra and all. Why Swatmaram ji might have said Sushumna? Dekho, literally, if we see the meaning of the words, they are different, but still it is given as a synonym for Sushumna. Why is it so? There is something in that concept which is very much similar to this concept. So here, if we see Shunya Padvi, they write Shunya Padvi refers to the absolute, which is indescribable, and hence void means empty, Shunya. Sushumna helps in attainment of that status, that is Padavi, of the absolute, that is Shunya. And that is why here we are calling Sushumna as Shunya Padavi, which is leading us to become one with that absolute. So the pathway through which we are going to become one with that absolute is none other than Shunya Padavi, which is leading us to that Padavi. And here Sushumna is that channel, a conceptual channel. It is the creation of a circumstance or situation where we are finding ourselves going ahead and excelling. So this is Shunya Padavi. The next one, Brahmarandra. Brahma means absolute, and Randra means, Mahendra sir, you are trying to ask something?
Yeah, a little clarification. School dealing with Kundalini, you have heard the name Sahaj Yoga. They are giving the concept of Kundalini as seated at the bottom of the spine in a figure of 8 position. Now, what is that?
In fact, they say it is the figure of 8.
Yes.
Some other text says it is 3.5 coil. 1, 2, 3.5. When we are writing 8, we are coming to 3.5 situation. Please take note of that. So whether it is 8 or 3.5 coils, it is same.
Yeah.
Now 8 represents your involvement into, you know, you are out of the understanding of the self and you are engrossed in the material self. That means you are engaged in something which is keeping you enclosed and not allowing you to go beyond that boundaries. And 8 is that you are always in that loop and you are not getting released of it. So our sab is at the base of the spine. Looking at that figure of 8, it is like, now sir, you and me are very lucky because of our past karmas. We are sitting in front of each other and sharing our knowledge or sharing whatever we have learned. And we are updating as well as upgrading ourselves and to going beyond that. But there are many people who have not even come to what we are doing. So they are stuck in that 8. They are not getting any kind of outlet. That is the 8 figure. But when I said 3.5, so 3 up to 3 is Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha. The creation, the sustenance, and the destruction. So destruction taken place, death occurs. Again, you are created. Brahma, the force, is bringing you to the birth. So birth, living, and death. What is this? This is the loop of 8 with that 3 circles. But that half circle is like, you know, the Adha Matra of Nad, Na of Om, which is leading you beyond these 3 loops and going into becoming one with the self. So when we say Kundalini is 3.5 circle, that half is leading you out of these 3, that is Sattva, Rajatama, that is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, these 3 forces which is connected to the material world. And when you are out of it, you are into that Sushumna, that is pathway. So this is how we have to understand it and connect it, sir. Hope I have made you understand the significance of 8 in that Sahaja Yoga and how to come out of it and get along with that.
Yeah. This is
Any sharing, sir, more?
Yeah, I asked this question in the reference that giving a shape brings out a material world. And we are discussing in the form of Shakti. The true concept is a Shakti concept, not the material. It's different from the material. It might be physical, but it is a non-matter. It's a physical, but not matter. It's not a consciousness, it's a physical. It's Shakti, but not the matter, because matter acquires the shape. And it is shapeless as we have inferred now.
To add to this,
yes.
To add to this, when you say Shakti, Shakti is nothing but the life force.
Yeah.
When I say matter, matter is not having any life in it, any prana in it.
Yes.
But Shakti is making it to live. As I should say this, पूर्णिम की रात में जब हम चंद्र को देखते हैं तो हम कहते हैं what a beautiful moonlight. But when we say what a beautiful moonlight, is it that the light of the moon? Not at all. It is sun which is shining, making the moon to lit. And we see the moonlight in the very similar manner. The Shakti is an energy. Shakti is not something which is connected to the matter. It is aloof out of matter. But when it is existing with matter, it makes the matter to work. And the matter as a body is working. But when it realizes, the Shakti realizes that it is different from this matter and it is something related to consciousness, that is where the effort to become one with the consciousness starts. And that is where the yoga begins. Until then, you are not in yoga, you are in only bhoga. That is the matter. You are connected with that. Now, this is how you have to understand it, sir.
Correct.
Yeah.
We can go ahead.
Yes, sir. Ashutosh, sir. Yeah.
Now I think we are getting into something very tricky, I thought. because this Panchakosha concept, Anna, Prana, Mana, Vijnana and Anand, it says that both Anna and Ananda are two ends of a continuum. It's a continuous thing. So we cannot actually segregate matter and spirit. They are all part of the same continuum. So if we start this dichotomy of what is material and what is conscious, then I think we will get into difficulties. As you said, energy is when consciousness becomes matter, then it is energy. Like sun is there, sun is matter, and sun's rays are also matter, but they become energy for us. Sun's rays become energy for us. That light becomes energy for us. So is it matter or is it consciousness? We don't have to go into that kind of distinction. Because the Panchamaya Kosh is a beautiful concept which links everything.
This was an example given, sir. Okay, when we see the moon, seeing the moon and the moonlight, we feel it is the moon which is giving light, but it is not the moon which is enlightened or lightened. It is the sun behind it which is making it light. So I was giving that example for that Shakti and the actions which we are into the matter. So Shakti is the one which is responsible for us to give that energy and become active. What you said with the Panchakosha concept, very true. That's what I was saying. Pranamaya Kosha is like a link between Annamaya and Manomaya. And Manomaya is like a link between Annamaya and the Vijnanamaya. And Vijnanamaya is the link between Manomaya and the Anandamaya. Anandamaya is the ultimate or penultimate covering which is beside the Atman or the ultimate state of our existence. So from this Panchakosha, as we are understanding the each and other kosha, with our practice, we should learn to drop our identification with other koshas and get established in that one which is very close. When I am saying drop, that doesn't mean that you remove it and put it away. Removal is not the understanding. Becoming more connected with that is what we have to understand. Okay, are we connected only with physical? Are we connected only with breaths? Are we connected only with the mana? Then we are not doing justice to our journey inside. So the example of the sun was just to understand. Though it is matter and giving energy and light, but moon shining out of the sunlight, we feel it is a moonlight, but actually it is the rays of the sun which is making the moon to get enlightened. So that was the example, or you can say the analogy brought over there in order to make understand this body which is having Atman within, it is because of the Atmic energy that we are functional. The Atmic energy is all pervading. It never dies. It is not even changing its form. It is neither becoming old or dying in the future. No, not at all. It is remaining as it is. And it was there earlier, it is now there, and it will exist forever. That's what we have learned from Bhagavad Gita. But what is this body? This body is changing. This is what we learned in our second chapter of Sankhya Yoga, where this body is going on to change, always going to be changing. And we will be taking up the another body. It is like the clothes that we remove and wear the fresh one. It is like that. But the Atman is changeless. It is all pervading. That is what we need to understand, the truth about our existence. We identify our existence. Sabir Bhai karenge, I am Sabir Sheikh. So he is not identifying himself with the Atman, but identifying with his name. Lekin while saying I am Sabir Sheikh, he somewhere should be well connected with the Atman also, and let Sabir Sheikh should be the material fact and be one with the Atman. That is the time he has created a distinction between the two. And that distinction process continuously maintained is yoga, which keeps you devoid of matter and connected with the self. So that is where matter and consciousness should be understood, sir. I hope I was trying to connect you, whereas you saying it properly about matter and the consciousness and how Panchakosha is leading us ahead. This is to bring about the distinction between us as self and between us as non-self. So the distinction between self and non-self is very important here. And how the yogic practices are going to bring about that change is the understanding. So whether it is the concept of Kundalini, whether it is the concept of Panchakosha, whether it is the concept of the analogy of sun and moonlight, or whether it is the concept of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras or Bhagavad Gita, ultimately, ऐसे घुमा फिरा के वो बात तो एक ही हो जानी है. It is going to be the same understanding. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Sir, there's a very important point you raised, Dupatkar sir, and I would like to come back to our morning discussion. We started off by saying that after 300 years of saying, eventually the description of the higher self was neti neti. So really, sir, I think all this, in terms of the dichotomy between matter and spirit, it's in a way non-existent, because all discussion is just matter. The mention of the word spirit is matter, right?
True.
What may be spirit is, that which somehow sustains matter. But it's indescribable. We can't talk about it. So for all practical purposes, you are very right. There's no point distinguishing between the two, because they don't lie on the same continuum. It's not that spirit is on one end of the continuum, matter is on the other end. Spirit is, in a way, non-existent because it is forever existing. It's of a different dimension. Words fail us because all these are inaccurate. There is no descriptor that can be given to it. So the continuum is between at best we can say grossness at one end and subtlety at the other end. Annamaya Kosh is the subtlemost state of matter. But you're still not anywhere near, if at all, you're still not there. Like I gave the example in the morning, atmosphere at 200 miles, but we've still not crossed the atmosphere. So all of Panchakosha still all belongs to matter. So all practice, everything that we are doing or our identity, everything is matter alone. So to that extent, sir, I quite agree with you. We should not distinguishing between matter and spirit, because spirit does not belong to a continuum. It is both the substract and also, the mother of all that, we see in terms of the material world. So I don't know if that helps.
Professor would like to add to that.
What Sunil Bhai is saying is that it is present everywhere.
Yes.
And, though not visible, it is present everywhere. So it's not a continuum. That's what he is saying. That's a different. That's another point of view, I would say.
But it's a different dimension, sir.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that is a different point of view.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
Point of
What I'm saying in this point of view, what we are saying is that in the continuum is all matter all through. It's gross at one end, subtle at the other. But what we are trying to denote by spirit does not find a place in that continuum. That is the point of view that I'm trying to.
It's water everywhere, not a drop to drink.
Quite. Yeah, very well said, sir. Very well said.
The Shakespearean style.
It's true. So, just would like to read the meanings so that as we are going to come across these words again, let us try to understand. In the Brahmarandra, Brahma means absolute and Randra is the passage. The Sushumna, which is said to be Brahmarandra, is nothing but the passage or the gateway of Brahma, and hence the connotation of Sushumna as Brahmarandra. Mahapatha. Maha means high, Patha means way. Thus, Mahapatha means highway. Highway to the absolute Brahma. Here, the importance is about Sushumna, the only way, not the Ida or the Pingla, through which Brahma is achieved. So Sushumna is the highway, not Ida, or no, that means not the other nadis, but only Sushumna. Then there is another word given to Sushumna, Ashana. Now this is sometimes, disturbing for some students who do not understand philosophy better. So Shmana is symmetry. According to our Indian mythology, Lord Shiva is also referred to as Bhutanatha and dwells in Smashana. Since Sushumna, which signifies the end of the worldly life, the end of the material life, here one should take that Bhutanatha is called as Smashana. So here he is making it very clear that's Mahapatha or the Sushumna is nothing but the Smashana where there is end of everything else. Because ultimately for us also in our world which we are living, ultimately we are going to the cemetery only. So where we go to the cemetery, the body goes to the earth or to the ash or whatever you can say to the air. The Panchamahabhuta are again consuming the body. But what about that Atma? It is relieved. It is relieved to, according to karma seeds, going into the other phase. What is that other phase? Is this body deciding? So whatever karmas we are doing here, the Atma is accordingly getting connected to the other body. And if there is no karmas, of course, moksha. That is where it is said, Smashana is that state where you are leading yourself beyond this matter or this material body. Shambhavi, that which leads to Shambhu. That which leads to Shambhu. In our Hatha Yoga, Lord is addressed as Shambhu, whereas his spouse is Shakti, that is Kundalini. The aim of Hatha Yoga is the realization of the union of Shambhu, that is consciousness or Shiva, with Kundalini, that is Shakti. In Sushumna plays a major role, hence the adoration of Sushumna as Shambhavi. Many times people say Sushumna plays a major role. Sir, what role is Sushumna playing? It is only just as a highway or path, the not understood student says. Then we have to say, making Sushumna a highway itself is like clearing the path. And that clearing of the path is nothing but the practices of yoga, which leads you into that state. And that is where you are becoming one with Shambhu. Then there is the last one, which is Madhya Marga. According to Hatha Yoga, amongst the nadis, Ida, Pingla, Sushumna, these are the three important ones. Sushumna is said to be in between the Ida, which is left, and Pingla, the right. So for the realization of the Hatha Yogic highest goal, suspension of Ida and Pingla and the operation of Sushumna is taken recourse to. The human life is full of activities, and that is activities of Ida and Ida and Pingla. And it is said full of extremes which need to be avoided if worldly sufferings are to be overcome. That means we need to go beyond Ida and Pingla. Therefore, the middle path, Sushumna, is adopted, and hence the name, the Madhya Marga. That means the Madhya Marga is that Marga which is devoid of worldly life. It is only consisting of the process of becoming one with consciousness. So this is how we need to understand these various synonyms as given in the 4th shloka. We will continue in the next class. We should stop here now. It is 11:43. If there is any addition to the same as per your understanding, please go ahead. The next we are going to come across, if I would like to complete the 5th one also, it says Tasmat Sarva Prayatnena Prabhutayet Tum Ishwaram Brahmadwaram Mukhe Suptam Mudrabhyasam Samacharet. Therefore, one should with all efforts practice the mudras in order to arouse the goddess Kundalini sleeping at the lower entrance of the Brahmadwara, that is the entrance of the Sushumna. So here with the fifth one, just giving us the understanding of what we have already understood from the previous 4 shlokas. The sixth one starts with the description of the various mudras. And then we will be going ahead and understanding each and every one of them. Yes, sir. Any addition to this? Anything there in your mind? Okay. Then we are ending this session here. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
After the prayer, we will stay back, and if Asha ji is joining, then we'll discuss about the sharing. Oh. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Let me try, Asha ji.
Yeah.
I just sent her a message. Hopefully she'll see and she'll join. So what she had in mind was that she said that the first 8 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, for almost each shloka, she has certain questions which were given by Dr. Saab as the, so to say, facilitators for practicing the message of that sutra in our day-to-day life. So she says that unable to join now. So never mind. We could maybe commence directly next week, or she will introduce next week, whichever way. So the idea behind the sharing that we had discussed 2-3 weeks back is that arising out of our Sunday class, and now also for morning sessions on weekdays, space whereby we can share our experience and also certain other techniques which are not covered by either of these classes could also find a space in that sharing. So therefore our whole effort becomes a little more comprehensive, that covers all that right now levels uncovered, and strengthens further, especially the first, as she had mentioned in the morning, the first 6 chapters are the chapters in Karma Yoga, and that is the easiest way to access the Bhagavad Gita. In any case, is the entry point. So those may be appropriate as a kind of what shall I say, facilitator, as a starting point for sharing. And once we come, or as a trigger, yes, that's the word I wanted to use, as a trigger for our sharing of experiences from the previous week. So that was simply what she had in mind. So is that something that we feel is okay as a beginning process, or do we have other views on how we can utilize these 15 minutes that we propose, from a sharing perspective?
Other option is to keep aside some time in her regular session for sharing.
We're already behind. So even so, I don't think she'll be able to spare time from the morning slot.
Because then to separate out only the experiences and talk about it would be a little. I don't know whether we'll be able to catch the flow. So, fine, we can do that.
Okay, other Sabir bhai, what do you think? Mahendraji, what do you think?
The issue has arisen because of some additional concepts supposed to be given by Ashaji. Now, what is that work, and whether that could be utilized in this 15 minutes, or it's beyond 15 minutes also. So we should first concentrate on what is in her mind, if that is also to be taken.
Okay, fair enough. Sabir bhai, what do you think?
I think in these 15 minutes, we will not be able to discuss on the assignments given by her, because first thing is whether the time will permit her to be with us when we are discussing, as the assignments are given, and when we are working on it. And another thing is, with our, I should say, with our maturity, our understanding, her assignment should be self-evaluated by us in our regular routine, and instead we should keep this 15 minutes for the other discussions rather than only focusing on that.
Okay.
It should be a cumulative approach of the whole week. Maybe Monday to Friday, the class happening with Vishnu and me, and Saturday it is happening with your as a revision of the whole week with Jay Kumar, and then Sunday we are having this session. We can discuss this in the 15. Wherever possible, we can try to bring about certain alignments if needed. But if we are giving this 15 minutes again to that intellectual discussion, it won't be enough in that 15 minutes. It won't be easy. That's what I understand.
Yeah, that could be a better way. I think summary of the whole week can come in that, because we are getting only once a week.
As Mahendra rightly said, this thing is coming out of Ashaji's giving us a particular type of homework, which we need to reflect on every shloka and get it done for us. And who will be the better evaluator than ourselves, rather than making it others to decide or how to go on, because that is going to consume a lot of time. And we are in that maturity where we can reflect on it every day and make that thing successful.
Okay. Fair enough. I think I also agree with all the gist of what has been said. Maybe let's keep these 15 minutes as unstructured, right? And allow spontaneous sharing to happen. And if in the course of that, it's bound to happen. Some experiences and certain techniques which we have practiced now let those come about in a very organic fashion. And without limiting ourselves or without imposing any yet another assignment or something to do. So fair enough. And the time is only 15 minutes. So in any case, there is a limit to what we can achieve. Very rightly said. Fair enough. So then, yes.
One more thing which I wanted to say, okay, this 15 minutes should not be only 15 minutes. Of course, it should not go beyond much more. But when the discussion is on, let it from 15 to 20 minutes happen, let 25 minutes happen. We should not abruptly stop it and end it there, because that is not doing justice to the explanation by Mahendra Bhai or Bhupankar sir or Sunil Bhai or Asha ji. So, of course, we should not go beyond that 12-15 also. I won't accept that also. But we should be limited to 15. But if 5-6 minutes here and there it happens, we should be very glad to have it.
You see, the issue must be settled. The duration may be little flexible. That's what I think about to say.
See, I absolutely understand. The thing is, okay, I'm going by our experience so far. Each one of us is capable of consuming the entire half hour. That's not going anywhere. So please let us choose a duration. Right? It could be half hour, it could be 1 hour for all but please let's choose a duration, stick to that. Because we all have, because then we program our day, keeping that duration in mind. And none of us would like to be so rude as to say, okay, if it's 12:15, let's say that I have to walk off and then allow the discussion. It's sparing ourselves that shall we say discourtesy, right? And also, what. Like I think I've mentioned this on this forum, Mark Twain once wrote a letter to his friend, and he began the letter by saying that, my dear friend, pardon me for writing such a long letter, but you see, I didn't have the time to write a shorter one. So, turn to people to frame our thoughts and ideas in a manner that is crisp and concise. So whatever duration we choose, fine. See, a minute or so, you see, we've also been a little flexible. 11:45 becomes 11:46. This morning, 10:30 became 10:30. Okay, that fine enough for there's a few sentences to get complete. But my submission is that it can become a little, if it lets open-ended, then it could disturb the schedule of, some of us. And I would submit that, we could avoid any potential discourtesies. So please choose whatever duration. I mean, but, beyond a minute or so, I think let's avoid. So since I'm not here, I would say let's stay with right now for 15 minutes. So I will on WhatsApp, after I will just say that for now we have agreed to this as unstructured. To presenting her point of view when the first session is held, and if by common sense consent feel that any changes to made, we can then take a call later on. And also, if we all agree that, and Jaykumar also was feeling a little unwell, so he had, excuse him by corresponding with me on a SMS. Let him also be there, and we also have his view. And if at that time the duration has to be altered, by common consent, sir, anything can be done. Absolutely no issues. So let's begin with just unstructured. And we then provide structure, semi-structure, elongate, shorten as per common consent. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine enough. Let's go ahead.
Bhupankar sir? Great. And good. So coincidentally, we are exactly at 12 o'clock now, 11:59. So to 12 to 12. And so, well, it's been wonderful. As Pulkar sir has been saying all along, it truly has become a kind of satsang, which at least I for myself look forward to during the week and derive sustenance from, also during the week. So pray to God that He continues to bless this forum and,